Today in the markets, pretty normal day. No big news coming out. There's no economic data that came out this morning for the United States. So we have just a so-so day. Closed about where it opened. A little bit lower, but not too much to shake a stick at. Dropped a bit from the previous day, but throughout the day, fairly normal trading. Just a lot of ups and downs, sideways trading, more or less. It was the first down day in quite a while in terms of not making a new high. So the last time this happened, we had a big drop down here, and then again down here, it dropped. And it's interesting to see if we go back down or we go back down towards our yellow input down here, or we continue to go up, and this is just a little bit of a head fake per se. There's not a lot of big news coming out of the U.S. this week. The GDP, the next big announcement is going to be a Fed meeting next week, or I think it's the Fed minutes, one of the two. Either way, that'll be something closely watched at. And the next GDP revision won't be till the end of the month. This week we'll get retail sales and some inventory numbers. Those will probably be the biggest things coming out. So the biggest thing for me that I'm watching is any news out of Greece. It seems to change by the minute, and one minute everything's going fine, they're meeting together. The next minute there's a downgrade and a sell-off, and it's hard to determine in this particular market whether or not it's going to go down. But if the market's going to go down, it's most likely going to be because of Greece, not necessarily because of what the Fed comes out with, in my humble opinion. In any event, if a market trades like this, where it basically trades sideways throughout the day, that's great for us, because that means every single individual stock is trading on technicals instead of some random news event that's going to send the market flushing one way or the other. And if every day in the market traded like today, my profit ratios would be through the roof, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. So let's get to today's trades. One of the ones was on Alibaba, and what we saw yesterday was this resistance channel right here. Spread it out a little bit, or a little more accurately, right there. This is today. Here's our line. And so what we said was that anything touching 85.5, we were going to go in, and our stop was going to be at 84.75, right here. So what we're looking at was an up day, because we saw the open of today was most likely going to be above this resistance channel, so it was going to be up. And so here's what happened. And here's the minute chart. Open, went up quite a bit. Going to come down. I'm seeing a bit of a consolidation happening around here, and it breaks downward and continues right there. And you can see right here there's our cross below 85.5 right there. So we're in, and I'm in with an 86 call option at $1.09. Top is at 84.75 down here, and then almost immediately it starts going our way. And at this point right here, we see a nice mono wave moving up right here, right there. So, and then we see a little bit of a consolidation, and then another move up. And as this mono wave starts to be a little bit more defined, we'll draw that one right here, and then we have kind of a newer one right there. And so what I'm looking for is a cross below this in order to get out. I'm watching it. It crosses below, but me particular, I didn't get out. I should have gotten out, but I didn't. because I was kind of watching this particular one right here. Didn't quite hit the 78.6 retracement, and it didn't hit the 100% extension either. So that would have been a good place for me to get out right here at this 86.5 level. I was looking at that price, and it was around $1.60 or so. So now, you see, it goes down a little bit, but then I get saved right here. And as soon as it comes up right here, I get out right there for $1.70. Right there. And then, assuming it just goes right back down. And another little resistance channel right there. Continues going, and then it completely crosses down. And something interesting to take note of right here after this happens is a retracement of 50%, but it continues to go down, and it touches our 61.8. So it's certainly possible that this thing could go up, then back down, and then back up again. Certainly possible. It's done it before. This is usually one of those slow moving stocks that can move throughout the day, like an Apple or like a Twitter, where you can just have something going along for 4, 5, 6 hours in a quarter point range, and then all of a sudden at the end of the day, just boom, out there, and just goes up. But it didn't happen quite this day, and one of the reasons that I was looking at this, and in theory, if I bought a bunch of calls down here at this 109, I could have in theory saved one like I did on Friday with Apple. But in this particular case, I just got out completely because we had a nearly 1.5% move in the stock, and we didn't even double our money. So in that case, it wasn't even worth it for me to try and stay in. But it's certainly possible that could happen. And as we continue along, we get these out of the way. We're just kind of putzing along, and all of a sudden, right here, what I'm also looking at is the minute chart on the markets. So this is around 11 a.m. right there. And our market is starting to move up in the sense that it's going up, and it's going up fast. Nearly a point in a half an hour, which is quite a range. 10 points in an hour on the SPX. But if you're looking at our Alibaba trade, it's not going that way. It's just kind of stuttering around, not going up the way it certainly did at the beginning of the day when we made our profit. Once you know that, you know this thing's not going up for the rest of the day, and this retracement is just out of it. And at that point, you see the closeout. It's not going to move anymore for the rest of the day, barring some random news event, which didn't happen. And throughout the day, it just went sideways towards the end. Wasn't as big as a move as I would hope for, but we still made a decent profit. So in the end, we got in at $1.09 with an 86 call, got out for $1.70 for a 56% return. So there's our trade on Alibaba. Now let's look at Tesla real quick. The daily chart of Tesla before today, what we were looking at was this support channel right here, and we're looking for Tesla to go down with an entry at a touch of 219, a stop at 221.5, going down because tomorrow's open is going to close below this particular support channel. And here's what happened throughout the day. It opens quite a bit below our entry, which is up here, and continues to go lower. And at this point, throughout the day, it never even gets close to our entry target, so this was a non-entry. So we had a 56% return on Alibaba, and a non-entry on Tesla. One of the big reasons we had a non-entry on Tesla was because it opened so far below the support channel. And when I see these cross of these support channels throughout the day, this is what usually ends up happening. So let me just go ahead and draw some bars here. So we have our support channel right there. We draw one more bar here. Let's say this one closes right there. And then tomorrow, so what we're looking at right here would be a move up. And here's our support channel right here. And what happens when we cross below the support channel, let's say it's so far below down here, what happened with Tesla, one of two things is going to happen. It's going to go up, touch the support channel, and then come back down like so, or it's going to go like this, down and then up and not quite hit it. Do something like that. And it's very hard to trade this second scenario because you don't know where the bottom is going to be. It doesn't necessarily start or end at a definitive point that you can see from a technical point of view from the chart, or even from the minute chart as you're watching it throughout the day. Because a lot of times in a minute chart it might look like this. It opens right here and then does one of these down and then fakes like it's going back up and then does one of these. And it's so hard to predict if that's going to happen. However, if it does something like this, where it goes up, touches our support channel right there, you know what's going to happen. It's going to bounce off and it's going to go bam. Very similar to what Alibaba did, but in the other direction. So Alibaba went like this. It opened above the resistance channel, going that way. It opened above it right here, went down, touched it, and then went back up, and then closed somewhere around here. Now, very often, what happens is it'll touch it and then just go straight up, way up there. And usually these are my biggest days when I see the cross below these support and resistance channels, because everybody's been going down for days and days and days, and then all of a sudden this thing gets buying energy where there's short coverings and people looking to make a quick buck, and that's when the big moves happen. That's when I usually get my biggest days, and so that's why I really get excited when I see one of these patterns. Perfect example of what happened on the other scenario when you drop below the resistance channel and you go back up towards it and then tank, as opposed to Tesla where you tank and then go back towards it, was Amazon. And I said I was going to watch Amazon, not necessarily get in, but that was a mistake. Should have gotten in at some point. We saw right here it was 375.5 or so to go down, and you can see very clearly what happened today. You come back up, very close, peaked at 370, nearly 374.5, a point below. All right, if you get that close in future, that's one you need to go down, because your odds are really good of going in the right direction. And if you do go in the right direction, you're going to make a heck of a profit. So once you see that, we had a bit of a consolidation, and then all of a sudden, woof, that's a lot of profit that I missed because I was focused on Alibaba at the time. Didn't quite have the leverage to trade both of these quite at once as the Alibaba was going up that first mono wave. But you can see right here, you get out somewhere around here and you get in right there, that's a double right here. That is a 100% return. But the better question to ask is, what if you're wrong? What if you get in right here and it doesn't go your way, and it decides to shoot up that way, and you get out, say, right there? What is your loss going to be? If you are wrong and you wait till, say, 377 right here, this loss right there is 35% if you go the other way. Now this is particularly why I like to trade options right here, because if it goes your way, you get 100% return. If it goes the other way, you take a 35% loss. So you've, in my humble opinion, 3/4 of a chance of being right, and when you're right, you win 3 times more than when you lose. That's why I trade the way I trade, and that's why I'm trying to show this video so that people who are watching this, no matter who you are, can learn something and learn the benefits of what if I'm wrong, what is the loss compared to the return, and that's the biggest reason why I like to do these videos, because I want to share my success with other people, so that someone else can learn how to trade and trade well, and not be suckered into somebody just trying to scam people based on some market robot or some fancy indicator. You'll never ever see me use an indicator in one of these videos. Well, I'll take that back. Very, 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 very rarely. There's really only one indicator that I use, and I only use it to determine consolidations, and that's the DMI. Videos, you still haven't seen me use it, and very rarely do I pull it out. The only time I pull it out is when I'm trying to figure out whether a certain consolidating pattern is really a consolidation, or whether it's just a stop and go per se. But this is, I'm just hoping that whoever's watching this video is actually trying to see something and can actually learn and benefit them, and maybe see where they've made losses in the past, why they've made losses in the past, and correct them and be on the winning side. Instead of sulking over your loss, you're going to be celebrating your wins. Tomorrow my trade is going to be on Netflix. Wasn't a whole lot out there to choose from for this particular day, but Netflix is probably the best I found that I was able to trade. I looked at Baidu and I liked it, but earnings are coming out in a couple of days, so all the options are going to be full of volatility and very expensive, and very, very, very wide slippage bid-ask spreads. Therefore, I'm not going to look at it. But what I'm seeing on Netflix is this consolidation right here, but more importantly, I'm looking at some of the previous history and what happened after it's had a big move and then a consolidation. So like I'm looking down here where it had a big move up right here, stopped for a little bit, moved up again, stopped for a little bit again, and then moved up and then went back down. So just because there's a consolidation here doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come crashing back down. And therefore, even though the S&P today had a pivot point for the first time in a week, I'm still going to look at one of these regardless. And that since this last big move up right here on January 27th, it really hasn't followed the market per se, which is something I really look for when I'm looking for a trade. So what I see right here as I'm looking at just this particular cross section is I'm looking at a big move up and then a pattern that I call a flat, in the sense that there's an A wave down, a B wave up, and a C wave down. Now it's hard for me to determine where this last leg is going to finish, even though we're in the middle of the last leg right now. And because this last leg has retraced more than the 78.6, that rules out a possibility of a zigzag, of something going up, then going down, and then going up. A pattern like that. And therefore I see this resistance channel right here of the mono wave, and tomorrow's day right there, and that line is about 442.5. Now something interesting to note, that since this has crossed this 440 line right here on January 26th, it has never closed below it. And even though we're getting very, very close, it's very hard for me to determine whether I believe, from a technical point of view, this thing's going to cross 440 and go down or not. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to look at the open tomorrow very, very, very closely and watch this very, very quickly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1.5 below this line. So let me change the color here real quick. So I've drawn the cross of today, which is right there in this, whatever color that is, the brighter color. And we have our 444, which is a 1.5 above it. And I'm also going to do a 441 below it. And whichever one this crosses first, I'm going to go that direction. I'm not going to expect a ton of profit from it, but it's still the best one that I found. And if somebody put a gun in my head and said, hey, you have to trade something tomorrow, it's going to be Netflix. Am I 100% confident on it? Not particularly, but that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. So the trade is going to be Netflix, and whichever line it crosses first is the way I'm going to go, and the stop is going to be if it crosses the other one. So say it opens at 442 and then drops below 441. Now, if it crosses below that 441, our trigger is going to be to go bearish. But if it crosses above 444, that's our stop. And the same way that if it crosses 444 going bullish and then comes back down to 441, that will be our stop. So there's your trade tomorrow. It's kind of like an order cancels order per se. Bullish above 444, bearish below 441. That's what I'm looking at, and let's see how it turns out. Good luck tomorrow.